Hey, what is up, guys? It's Diana here with Entree Woman TV, helping transition your passion into the business that you love. And on this live stream, I'm going to be talking about the Facebook data breach that happened with Cambridge Analytica, just some of the safety issues that has, or safety questions rather, and concerns that has come up when it comes to Facebook. What happened when Congress met with Mark Zuckerberg earlier this week, and how that went, and just how this can not can how it is really going to affect us as small business entrepreneurs, even major corporations. Touches some into, like, internet access and things like that, and some of the new procedures and precautions and stuff like that that'll come into place when we're just doing business. It won't be business as usual moving forward. So I want to take a very boring topic and make it rather interesting as best as I can. So, a little housekeeping before we get going. This will cover, some, or touch on. I'm not going to talk about, political persuasions one way or the other, or anything like that outside of relevance to the topic of what we're talking about. And, as far as like these kind of issues touch into, especially when we start getting into how it affects, Facebook's ads and marketing and things like that, you'll touch into some demographic content, but it should not turn into racial content. It shouldn't turn into, political biases or anything like that. And as always, our community does an excellent job with that. But if you're new to the channel, we don't do any of that here. And so you will get, a little wedgie, little internet wedgie if you do something like that. So if you're new to the channel, we have a very close knit and good community, and we're going to keep it that way as we discuss difficult topics. And again, try to make a difficult, not even a difficult, but more or less it can be um, boring topic, and make it very interesting. So let me refresh here and make sure. Oh, I believe we're going live. Should never be an issue with that, with the way that I'm doing it here. Yep, it's live now, so we're good to go. Let me jump in the control room. It's always kind of iffy. Looks good as far as I can tell on screen and stuff like that. Shouldn't be any kind of playback issues. Make sure the speakers are off. And I'm just checking the data stream before we jump into it. But again, just want to take more or less what can be considered a rather boring topic and make it fairly interesting, because I mean, when you think about it, you have to consider that if you are new, if you're a brand new entrepreneur, maybe you're just like, well, this doesn't apply to me, or it doesn't apply to me yet because I haven't done anything with Facebook ads yet. I just have a personal profile, and I have protection for uh, my personal and sensitive information and things like that. Well, it's more to it, and we're probably just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So if you're watching this live, or if you're watching on the replay, thanks for joining. And again, I want to try to keep this as interesting as possible and not bore you to death with the legalities of any kind of issues covered. And I try to keep it really more or less from a high level overview, and again, take a very more or less kind of could be potentially boring-ish type topic and just make it interesting and appealing so that we can get the details that we need. So to backtrack on what happened, to get into where we are, bring you up to speed as to where we are today. Facebook, as we all know, love and some hate. Facebook, if for the amount of people that are a part of that Facebook community, for as many people that are on the platform, it could be considered, I believe, according to a statistic maybe a couple of years ago, I don't know what that is as of 2018 or even 2017 yet, but it could be considered the third largest country in the world, because just of the sheer amount of people that are on there. And so history of Facebook is, as it has much, it's still the same of much of what it is today, which is that you create a profile on there. It's free. The way that they're able to use the free model is that they produce ads on their system. Makes sense. A lot of websites and companies do that. And you share your information, and a lot of people say, oh, Facebook sells your information, and this proves it with this Cambridge Analytica issue, but that's not the case. So to jump into what the problem is, and like I was sharing with my email community and with, like, I'll share with you guys, is that most people will say, well, this is Facebook's fault, when really, in essence, they did make some errors. But my personal belief is, I always like to take um, I always like to take the initiative, and I always like to take responsibility for the things that I can change. And when Facebook, you have a platform like Facebook where all of the content is creator content, it's user content, you're sharing your location, you're sharing your, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. You're sharing your Facebook stat. You're sharing what you feel like. You're sharing what you ate that night. You're sharing pictures and stuff like that. All of that. And when you start introducing companies into that system, they want what any marketer love, as much information as possible on their ideal clients and customers, or potential customers and clients, and ideal customers and clients. So what happens is, this guy, and I'm not going to drop any names or anything like that because I don't really remember the guy's name. It doesn't matter. Creates this survey, this app, this program, and you have stuff like where, what Disney princess are you? What would you look like as a male, was one of the more recent ones that was recently out there. So it does some kind of thing or whatever, matching up images, or what would you look like at, 80 years old, or stuff like that. These games, these surveys, these things like that. Guy creates one, lots of people use it. He accesses people information based on the things that they're responding to, which they think and believe are harmless. And I'll get into why that's an issue in just a minute. But the thing is, like, if you're giving your information freely, and there is a fire, not even a firewall, so to speak, but there is like a stop sign, so to speak, or a yield sign before you access it, any app or stuff, program or whatever on Facebook. Say, hey, they're asking to get in, have access to your contacts. They're asking to have access to your Facebook page and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, whatever, go ahead. I want to play the game, or I want to see what Disney princess I am, right? And so, because people aren't reading, people aren't seeing what they're doing, and how these questions are impacting them, and they're asking, let's just say, blanketed questions to figure out your personal information and things like that, your favorite color, and also some of these questions, these surveys, these games, it touches into stuff like things that would be on a survey. If you've ever got a bank account, if you've ever done any kind of business, as far as credit is concerned, and they want to verify your identity, they'll ask you, have you ever driven this car before? Or of this list, pick the list that has your car. Are you related to this person? Do you know this person? Those kind of questions. You're like, Dad, how do they know all this stuff? Well, the same thing. And most people pick similar answers for their security questions, for their profiles, bank accounts, all kinds of stuff. And it becomes very easy to get access to people's information. I don't believe they went that deep, but I'm just letting you know. They'll ask these shielded questions where it appears one way and there's something else behind it. So, this guy, he gets all these people's information because they gave it away. Companies figure out, hey, this guy has all this data, and he sells it. Point blank, he sells it. So Cambridge Analytica is one of the companies that got it. Facebook says they found out about it. They say, hey, you guys need to delete that. And they say, okay, it's deleted. And Facebook's like, all right, good deal. And they walk away. Now you're looking fast forward 2018, and come to find out they didn't delete it. They lied. They weren't honest. Big surprise. They have access to all this data. Like, we can use this, we can sell this, we can do all kinds of stuff with this. And so that ties into, you look at the 2016 presidential election, U.S. presidential election, and now we're seeing how, the Russian, it's already been confirmed, how Russia was able to play a part and manipulate what is the common phrase now of fake news, and create ads and run ads and get in front of certain demographics. And it's just all kinds of stuff that was able to be manipulated with this information, and just move all kinds of stuff around. And it's like, okay, well, everybody's wondering now, well, what did Facebook do about it? And to a certain extent, so there are a couple different players in there. Of course, you have those that stole, not necessarily stole, but they were deceptive in the way that they obtained the information. What they were going to do with it wasn't very upfront and clear, which there are some laws against. But at the same time, if you consent to something, but you're not really sure of what you're consenting to. In a certain sense, they can say that, hey, I gave you all the details up front, but you didn't read it. But then also they had in a contract or something like that with Facebook that, hey, we're going to sell this information. And that was some of the text that was in there with the survey this developer had, and Facebook didn't catch it. And so that's what they did. They sold it to Cambridge Analytica, this company. So now they're doing all kind of crazy stuff with it, and Facebook is catching the heat from not catching, the clauses that were in there, not stopping, not, further auditing Cambridge Analytica to really see if they deleted the information that they told them that they needed to delete. They just took their word for it and went on. And so now you have 80, I believe the figure is something to the effect of 87 million Americans, not necessarily Americans. I don't believe necessarily Americans, but 87 million people, regardless of what country or origin they're in. 87 million people, or at least 80 plus, that are affected. And so many of you that may watch this, you may be affected. So how does that deal with it? So we got all the details now, got it all laid out for the most part. So how does that affect what we're doing? How does that really affect just how we can move forward? I'm just making sure that we are still good. Let me do this here. Yep, so that'll work. Alrighty. So how can we make sure that we are being safe? How does this really affect us? So one of the things, number one, prime directive number one, stop playing these games, these surveys, because you want to see, what Disney princess you are. You want to see what you look like as a man. You want to see, or vice versa, or the opposite sex. You want to see what your potential child would look like, what you're going to look, what your life is going to look like in the next 10 years, and all kinds of stuff. You've seen it before. Stop participating in the robbery of your personal and sensitive information, because it has long-term lasting effects. And once somebody has it, they can continue to manipulate it, and it becomes available on the dark web and all kinds of stuff where it's just a lot of shifty characters out there. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that when you look at now this video, I watched it on CNET, watched the replay stream on CNET. This meeting that they had, this hearing rather, that Congress had with Mark Zuckerberg was 5 hours long. It took me 2 days to get through it, and I repeated some of the content, but I literally listened to and watched for 5 hours, if not more, just for the simple fact of repeating certain parts, where they had about 40 different senators, chairmen, some different people, mostly senators, that were questioning certain things. And some of the main factors that they were asking is, why did you just trust them? Why did you just take their word for you? Or, $1 billion corporation, why didn't you act better than a solopreneur, more or less? Or uninformed solopreneur? What's the issue with the contractual obligations that these developers and app companies that partner with Facebook that they have, excuse me, what's the legality situation here? Like, why wasn't it caught when you had these issues that came up? Why did you guys miss this? Don't you have like teams of people looking and writing these things? Another factor is information that is shared with the user. So if you look at any kind of terms and agreements for any program that you sign up for, I don't care what it is, anything, pick anything. When you sign up for the terms and agreements, much like what was stated in the congressional hearing that happened with Mark Zuckerberg, excuse me, I'm trying to clear my throat. I should drink more water. But it's like, why didn't you do this? Your terms and conditions are basically written in legalese. Nobody, an average person, can't understand it, or even some of them practice law at some point, and they can't really decipher some of those things. So obviously, a person, that average everyday Joe, is not going to really understand it. They just figure this is the checkbox, or this is the little PDF, online PDF that I need to scroll through so that I can start using Facebook to begin with. And everybody has clicked through, and they say, well, they had access to it. And it's like, well, yeah, they can't read and understand it. That's a problem. And so that's not in a way that people can they're not basically not aware of the rights on the platform. They're not aware of what's available. There are certain things, and I know I go through stuff. I am that person that will go through terms and conditions and look and see what's available or what's not available and all kinds of stuff. I get into the geekiness of what I'm signing into. Whether I'm getting a car or anything else, I'm like, well, you guys might as well go get some coffee or something. I'm about to, dive into the small and the fine print. And so most people don't though, and that's normal. I think it's bad, but it's normal. And so they're looking like, okay, well, um, now what? So what are you guys going to do about this? So they have to go through, they have to revamp that and make it a simpler form to understand. Because you or I don't have the full knowledge of what everything means and what's available to you. There are certain things that he was saying, well, the user already has that ability. If you have a right, if you have something that is available to you, let's say, for example, if you ever stayed in an apartment or you rented a home or something like that at any given time, you know that they can't just, well, most of the time, if it's written in most contracts, they cannot just open the door and come in. You're sitting there with your family, you're watching TV. They can't just come in and burst through without, a reason, without some issue, without prior notification of maybe at least 24 hours and all kind of other things. Well, if you don't know that that exists and they just start barging in whenever they feel like it for any given reason, for anything at all, and you don't know that, then it's like, well, you figure that that's normal. And sometimes that's how it is when you're dealing with some of these apps and these programs and stuff like that. And you're like, well, this is normal. This is what happens. And it's not. And there are certain things, then I can't really get into it because I have to dive deeper into it myself. And I do want to do a shorter video where I'm able to really share on the screen and give examples of things like that. But I just kind of want to put this on your radar, share the information so that our small business startup community here can become a more educated community. Just because you're in the beginning phases and stages of your business does not mean that you need to be an uninformed entrepreneur. And one of the things I love about what I do in my small business consulting firm, as well as here on the channel, is make sure that you know what's available to you. Make sure that you're aware of those things. And at times it can feel a little overwhelming, but these are things that you have to know. You're going into business. These are things that you have to know. And when it comes to, um, okay, stream looks good. I'm just constantly checking just to make sure. All righty. So we're good. Yeah, we're good. Gravy. So, so there are things that you need to know. And just because you're new, that's no excuse not to know. So it's a choice. So when it comes to these apps and things that you're using, one of the things that Mark pointed out was the fact that when you're signing into an app, they tell you what information that they will need access to work. So for example, if there is something that is a camera-based app, then they say, hey, can we access your images and your pictures and your camera and your microphone are some of the typical ones so that we can do it. Or if it's something that has video chat messaging, picture sharing or something like that, they need to have access to your images to save that kind of content and material too. They need access to your microphone to capture the audio so that they can do the videos. So no different than what I'm doing here. I had to give Google permission to use my microphone, my video stream, so that I can share this content. And it's no different with anything else. Only thing is that what apps that you're using, or just because you wanted to see what Disney princess that you were, or, what your baby would look like between two people, or, stuff like that, you've given that app, that program, that developer access to your information. And most people, they don't think about it. They see it and they're like, okay, that looks cute. Or, oh no, man, this and that or whatever. They share it and you get comments on it and it just seems like a fun, harmless thing. But you never go back and start deleting and removing it. It is a video that I'm going to be uploading to the channel as well on how to start removing some of the access and restricting some of the access to some of these apps. You don't know what you don't know. And it's really at that point, it's not your fault if you're not aware of it, because as a consumer, you're entrepreneur, and then you have your consumer side where you're sharing that kind of stuff with your friends. I've even commented on some like, oh, that looks terrible. But it's just, a social sharing and you're in that consumeristic type lane. But when, as an entrepreneur, you have to think about your constant and ongoing safety. Your information is your livelihood. If somebody steals your credit information or anything like that, which you guys are well aware of, then you're shot. That's the problem. It's going to be over. It's over. It's the end of the game, right? So Mark was saying how you have certain accesses that you can restrict to these people. Now that you've given them, access to your camera and stuff like that, so that you could take a picture of yourself, or they could access your profile and take a picture. What was happening is that you have some of these companies that, again, just they're not being honest, and they will start to scrape your content, and they want to go through and find all of their information and see what they can find and match you up, and it's like create this profile for you and this list of information to potentially sell things that you like. For example, things that you like on Facebook. You like race car. You like NASCAR. So you like that page. You like a specific driver. You like specifically drifting. So we've continued to drill down in those categories. You like hair products. You like natural hair care products. You like natural hair care products made with non-GMO, non-hormone, this, that, or whatever, or whatever. That information is gold to an advertiser, because I can say I only want women with natural hair. If I have hair lotion and it meets those criterias, I want to reach out and get in front of those women that are saying, like, I only like this kind of stuff. I don't like this, that, or whatever. I don't like chemicals in my hair for real. I like natural stuff. And it's like, I have the bottle that you need. I want to get that ad in front of them. And when you get into your Facebook ad manager, and you start to look into that content, and you start to specify those demographics, again, if I have a list of people already that I bought from the black web or anywhere else, and I can get this information in front of people, then that's gold, because my chances of being able to have them buy are much higher than if they weren't. And the same thing goes into your safety and your security, as well as the 2016 elections, where this really came into play in a big way and manipulated people's thoughts patterns and their processes of how they're looking at information. And just, they're seeing, if they're saying they hate Hillary, but they like Trump, then they can further push the agenda of a positive message based Trump and everything wrong that Hillary has ever done, and vice versa. And they can say, that Trump is this terrible person and he's done all these great things, and further, give all the great accolades to Clinton and say she's the best person in this, that, or whatever. So it works on both ways, but it more so when they felt that it linked this, it tipped the scales, regardless as to what the vote said and this stuff like that. They're saying the decisions that people made were impacted, and they were interrupted based on these ads that people saw. And it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. If you were on Facebook, anytime around the personal elections and stuff that was getting shared was out of control. But based off of your likes, who you like, do you go and like your senator or your mayor's page? And are you liking political issues? Are you watching and consuming that content? And all kinds of stuff ties into that data. And our screen just froze, so I want to make sure I'm still good. Give me 1 second here, guys. I want to make sure the stream is solid. Looks like I'm a little frozen there, so make sure I don't want to drop any frames or anything. Let me go here. Okay, so it looked like the camera dropped for whatever reason, and I don't know why. Okay, looks to be okay. Let me make sure. Refresh my page here. Man, Google always tries to play me when it comes to these live streams. So I'm hesitant to do them. Okay, looks like I'm back. Okay, good. Good. So, all that stuff plays a role in, these political biases and things like that. And, it sucks because you feel like, your votes or the votes were tainted. You feel like people are getting in the way of the American way, the American dream, the way things should be, the way things are supposed to be, and it sucks. And it's an issue. So trying to make sure. Okay, yeah, great. So everything's back to normal. But it's like I said, without getting into any kind of political issues and stuff like that, if you watch the stream of or the replay of the live stream from CNET, CNN, or whoever else streamed it, you can even watch it here on YouTube, and I'll link down below the CNET version that I looked at if you want to check it out. And again, it's 5 hours, so it may be something that you want to progressively watch over time, even over a week or so, because I do want to go back and I'm going to listen to it again. And you'll see that there are some senators that have a bias one way or the other of the information that they're sharing. You can see that some were fans of Mark Zuckerberg, and you can see some that weren't. And either way, the whole thing is that this is going to change how we're able to do business. If you haven't noticed already, if you have a page that you were actively using for business, or if you I've ran Facebook ads before, then you'll see that the reach that you used to have on your Facebook page has been severely dampened. The amount of ads that you see in your Facebook news stream has been severely dampened. And if you want to get in front of people, you need to pay to play. And just the algorithm and the things that are going forward on Facebook have changed. So and Facebook was and has been very strategic in me being able to get one-on-one coaching clients, and it still is, but just trying to redirect the strategy and refine that strategy based on these changes that they're making as to what content that they want, where do they want it shared, how do they want it, and how those Facebook ads need to be catered to further reach out to the specific community and people, again, that have those specific demographics and qualifications that would be best suited for what I'm doing. You have to pay to play. And that's fine, because it would cost way more if you wanted a billboard and stuff like that, and it'd be less effective. Moving forward, how this will affect our business is because if you think about it, any of the people in Congress, senators, or so forth, they all more or less have a business. So the small business laws, they have a vested interest in making sure that the small business laws work in their favor, because they have a business, right? Whether you're aware of it or not, they have a business. So that's why the laws are so great for a small business entrepreneur. But this changes things when it comes to the net neutrality issue, and I don't want to get into that in this particular stream because we're going to wrap this up in just a minute. But when you start getting into how that affects how information is consumed online or even on mobile devices and so forth, and how it's going to impact the laws that will become necessary, because it's not a fact of if a law will be created, and they kept referring to what the Europeans are doing and how things are working for them, and a new bill that's coming up to potentially be passed into law. And if that happens, then we may do another live stream. I just do a quick video kind of discussing those changes and the impact and so forth. And if you haven't already, make sure that you join the small business startup community, and you can go to startingyourbusiness.live. I'll drop it down below later. But yeah. So every link, everything I'm talking about, I'll put in the description down below. So here's the point. It's not a fact of whether there will be laws now on those kinds of things, how information will be able to be consumed when it comes to social media sites and the restrictions that are available or necessary, if Facebook will continue a free model or potentially switch to a subscription-based model where you're paying maybe $5, $7, $10 a month for various levels, like a Netflix. Whereas let's say Netflix was free, for example, but you got ads on all the videos or something like that, or it kept interrupting, like how you get on YouTube, unless you want YouTube Red, and you just keep having to deal with ads. Or you could pay $7.99 or $8.99, I believe it is now, or $9.99, or whatever these tier packages are, and you deal with less and less stuff so that you can customize your experience. I believe at some point they will go to a subscription-based model of some sort, where you can either minimize or completely remove all ads whatsoever, and still have a free model, which Mark did say that Facebook always have some free version. He didn't say it'll always remain free as it is today. So I believe their model will change over time, if not from this recent Cambridge Analytica data breach that has happened. Or you're looking potentially, or not even, or it's not a fact of if there will be a law passed, but what those contents will be. And some of those senators tried to push him into a corner to say, will you agree to a law that says X, Y, and Z? And we all know that just because somebody says one thing in the political realm, that, I'm going to make sure that everybody's shoes stays tied and nobody trips on it. Well, that's great, but the law may say that you must have a companion with you at all times that is 5 feet, or less, and they have to this and that or whatever, and you have to pay them a salary to make sure your shoe stays tied all the time. It's getting the end result, and that's a bit extreme, just for a shoe tying example. But it's a bit extreme. But then again, it still is doing what that person said that they would do, and following through on it by making sure that nobody falls and everybody's shoe is tied, but it's at your expense. So I don't agree with some of them trying to push him and back him into a corner and say, would you agree to a law like this? Would you say yes to this? Would you agree to a law that says that you must have this, that, or whatever? And he's like, well, I agree that everybody's right. Everybody has a right to their information. Everybody has a right to delete their information, which they already do on Facebook. And everybody has, I do agree that something should be done, or there should be some version of a law, but without knowing the specifics, without looking at it, then yeah. And then some of them, if you aren't familiar with social media influence, some of them are saying like, you need to become more politically involved with the massive following that he has as an entrepreneur, a businessman, and his American story, which you can tell a lot of them were very proud to, that Facebook's journey is an American ideal. It's an ideal dream to have a small business. Like if this business here, turned into the next version of the next Facebook, and on that kind of uh, global scale. So for some people it's their dream, and some people it isn't. But more or less, it's the American dream: start with nothing, end with everything. And so what's going to happen moving forward, there's going to become laws that become available, which may impact us as small business entrepreneurs, as far as what we have to do when we're trying to run Facebook ads, or maybe ads online in general. If we're accessing somebody's social profile or information, or tracking them with something to the effect of a Facebook pixel, which when you visit bestbuy.com and you look at a thumb drive or something like that, next thing you know, um, everywhere you go, Facebook or anywhere else, you see on the sidebar, or you keep seeing ads pop up on Facebook where that thumb drive keeps coming up. Hey, it dropped in price $5, or hey, this, that, or whatever, whatever. And you're like, dag, I didn't, sign into a Best Buy account. I didn't, like, why are they following me? Or what is going on here? It's those retargeting ads that say, hey, you visited. Now we're going to follow you in this, that, or whatever. So it's all kinds of stuff that goes into that. Now, I really don't want to go into the complexities of how that's done, or anything like that. But it very well may change how we're able to do business in that way, just to stay top of mind. So if you looked at the thumb drive, you looked at the page, and you researched several different ones for 10 minutes, chances are you have a real interest in looking at purchasing. So they want to stay top of mind, so that you don't go to a Micro Center, you don't go to a Walmart. They want to make sure you get it from Best Buy. You came to our site, you looked at it, you said you liked it, you wanted it. Now we want to stay top of mind and make sure that you get it. So things like that may change on how we can run ads, how we can stay top of mind and be in front of our ideal customers and clients and people that visit our sites and so forth. And then again, just the clarity of information on the consumer side will definitely impact, because you as a consumer, you'll see less, or you'll see certain restrictions placed, or you have to continually give permission on what you're doing, to access certain things. So it can never be said that you didn't know and that you're a victim, but that you were willingly a participant of what took place. And so, like, when it comes to data security and all kinds of stuff, like I said, it essentially is a boring issue, more or less, until you get to the point to where you become affected. Your financial situations become affected. Your credit information becomes affected, or all kinds of stuff. And so it's a real serious topic, a real serious issue. Again, when these laws start coming through, when these bills start coming up, to potentially be passed into laws, it's something that we do want to keep an eye on. and start to pay attention of as to how this is going to affect. Because if we can't reach via ads or paid promotions of some sort to our ideal customers and clients, it'll impact them being able to see and to find us. We'll have to re-strategize on what's working and what's not, which changes over time anyway. But if that is removed, restricted, and all kinds of stuff, then it's going to change how we essentially are able to make money, drive more traffic to our business websites, and so forth. And it's going to change what people are seeing. It's also going to change the laws when it comes to small business and how you need to hold on to people's information and what you need to do. I'm a small business coach. So when I'm working with a one-on-one coaching client, I have to collect payments. I have to collect people's information. I have to go through a series of, I'm going through a series of coaching calls or video conferencing or whatever preferences they have of communicating to go through these strategy sessions with them. And so when we're talking, when we're having a discussion, how is this information being saved? How is this information being protected? Even as having a merchant account to access the funds and draw those funds for coaching clients, information, their credit information has to be saved in a certain way. Not credit scores or anything like that, but their credit card, debit card, whatever, their payment source has to be protected in a certain way. And so if those laws that eventually will become passed becomes more stringent and more strict on how we're able to do things, that will definitely determine how we're able to move forward and do business and the things that will become required of small business entrepreneurs. So that's all I really wanted to do and discuss with this particular stream. We have been going for, let's see here, I think 37 minutes. So it's a pretty good time. So if you guys have any questions, if you have any comments, I would love to hear your thoughts on this and what do you think about this whole Cambridge Analytica issue? What do you think is going to happen with Facebook information? What do you think is going to happen with some of the laws that may be passed? Again, always be respectful of other people's political opinions and biases, and we're all the same here. We're all entrepreneurs. And I really want to continue this to be a close-knit family and community. And I look forward to hearing you guys' thoughts and opinions. And I will always keep you abreast and up to date on what's going on so we can remain a mature community, an informed community, an educated community of entrepreneurs that are able to serve their clients and their customers in the best way possible so that you can help transform your passion into the business that you love. And as always, my friends, live with passion. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.